the Within Orb podcast. Come get Within Orb. Hello, my name is Jenn Zahrt, and welcome to Within Orb, a production of the Celestial Arts Education Library, a podcast bringing people together around the love of astrology, books. Join me as I interview people about the astrology books that changed their life and practice. You can support the podcast at withinorb.com. Welcome to another episode of Within Orb, and today I have the pleasure of motoring down to Tempe, Arizona to speak with Dave Campbell. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
I'm so glad to have you. So Dave is the president of the American Federation of Astrologers, the oldest astrology organization in the United States, and the author of one of the more unique volumes that we have here at CAELi on forensic astrology. What is forensic astrology?
That is a good question because it's a lot more than people realize. It can pinpoint or eliminate suspects. I use it for one of the biggest things is helping find people. So the horary aspect of it. But I can also tell if somebody was murder or suicide, if it was suicide, who did it. If there's like 3 suspects, and I have all the charts of everybody, I can tell you who did it.
Wow.
I've used it for like gang-related things with a DA before, and he was shocked and surprised at how much information we could come up with. He even said, "Can you figure out which person died out of this gang?" And I did. It was easy.
Wow.
You just like look for the death aspects, and there you have it.
Right.
And also, I learned a lot about astrology in general because we did like composite charts of the gang, and I took one member out, and the whole composite changed and the dynamics changed. And he said that person was the leader and the instigator. It shows how composites work. I mean, I learned so much about what works and what doesn't in astrology because I use all the different methods. I mean, I use, midpoints. Was like, okay, they're cool. But when I see it working, like the midpoint of the victim is on the perpetrator's Mars, I mean, like, midpoints really do work in real life. So, and in synastry too, that's synastry of a different kind. But why am I attracted to kill you? Yeah, that kind of thing. So, but it's like there's no accidents. It shows like there's always a draw from that suspect. That's even if they didn't know them and it wasn't like they were stalking them, there's always that connection. And it's just so weird. It's eerie. It's kind of morbid in a sense. I can profile serial killers or kind of profile a person for what kind of crimes they do or what kind of behavior they have. So
I always wanted to come up with something called the murder zodiac, where you would look at someone's Mars sign and talk about the kinds of crimes they would commit. What else would you add to the profile of the type of crime someone would do?
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of like sociopathic, whether they're like totally narcissistic or just, whether murder's even a capability of them. I mean, because a lot of people just don't have that capacity. I mean, we all do to it, and we're in fight or flight and survival. Then there's no about that. But if you're protecting your children, anybody would do that. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people that have it, and it's just there.
Wow. Okay, well, let's go to a lighter topic. How did you get into astrology? Which was your first astrology book?
Gosh, I think it was Linda Goodman's Sun Signs. So way, way back when. And I mean, I was only in like 3rd grade, so reading it, but I was already convinced. And I lived in Utah, so it wasn't like you could talk about sun signs to everybody because they didn't believe that stuff. But I really did believe it. Like my family all talked about their zodiacs, and so then I started, like in my early 20s, really wanting to study like psychic stuff and tarot cards, and I started doing tarot at like 13. And the books would say, well, this is like a Leo card or like a Aries person. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? So I'd have to go look at an astrology book to see what that card meant, And so tarot kind of bridged that too also because I was really interested in tarot. And then I hired a psychic in Salt Lake City to teach me psychic development because I really wanted to develop further. And she taught me everything. I mean, she taught me palmistry, psychic development, tarot, and then astrology. And so my first one of my first books was like the A to Z Llewellyn book. And I mean, that was just like an addiction right then. And it's back in the day, so I had to go get the ephemeris and calculation and learn the math and do all that stuff. So that one was probably the most. And then I think when really astrology convinced me beyond was when I got the rising sign book. Because I knew I was Scorpio rising, but what does that really mean? I read that book and went, oh my God, somebody wrote a book about me, and I can't let anybody read this ever. And it really fit my personality, probably more than Leo, I mean, I have personality, but it's very hidden with that Scorpio, and I'm intercepted also. My son is. But so those two books really, really convinced me. And then I probably have either given away or sold more of those rising sign books than anything. So I still think it's timeless, it's classic, it's in depth. And she's a psychologist, or was a psychologist. So I kind of resonated with her kind of writing, and I did hypnotherapy and regression, and I do all that too. So the ego and the super ego, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Okay, so one other thing about your work is, as the president of the AFA, you are located near the other major collection of astrology books in the country, and you also sell books in your astrology store. So this is a probably super challenging question to ask, which 3 books you'd take to a deserted island. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask you because you're here on Within Orb.
Well, one of them definitely would be the rising sign, because I think it's something I would never give up. Nowadays, I would say Predictive Astrology by Michele Adler. It's one of the better ones that I've found over the years. That has so many different volumes in it. And then the third one would be Asteroid Goddesses by Demetra George, because I'm really into asteroids and mythology, and she was a major inspiration for me to get into asteroids in the first place.
Okay, so let's go back to the Predictive Astrology by Michele Adler, and tell me more about this book and why you picked it.
Because I teach astrology too. So I teach beginning, intermediate, and advanced. And so when I'm looking for books that will be a reference book forever and that you can get the most out of the book for the class, I mean, her book on Predictive followed so many techniques that I could get one book for my students instead of getting 10 books, like on progressions, on solar arcs, on, she has more than I would ever even use in the class. She goes backwards in time, and I'm like, that's too beyond me. So there's more into that book, it's definitely, and all my students love it. So I've used it in all my advanced classes for years.
Did any of the techniques that she talks about make its way into your forensic astrology practice?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I use solar arc. I use progressions. I use a lot of different techniques, and I also used asteroids heavily in the forensic, and that's where I can even get the name of the person that did it. And it's so weird that it shows up, like even the names of the people involved will show up like on the midheaven, or really prominent in the charts. And sometimes that literally tells me who did it, the name. I mean, the planets are going to show the evidence there, the DNA kind of stuff there. But it's just really bizarre when the names are just right there in the charts. And so it's like, was this planned before our life got here? Was it a karma?
Or maybe the asteroids are just little snitches.
Yeah. I mean, they have those little details that are little spices that make it a better picture.
Yeah. So speaking of asteroids, then that's your third pick, which is Demetra's Asteroid Goddesses, and that's a classic. So
can't improve on that, Yeah, and I've even written 2 other asteroid books too. They're just not the same, different.
What asteroids did you write about?
I wrote, the one book is called Interpreting Asteroids, and it's on the 4 classic plus Chiron, interpreting them, because there's still not very many people can interpret them. They put them in the chart and don't know what to do with them. And it's even like, what if I say your Pallas is square your Vesta? It's in the book. So, because people have a hard time relating that, unless it's like Pallas conjunct your sun or something, that's easy. When it gets more complicated. So
Do you have a take on Chiron that's not popular?
I view Chiron a little different than everybody does the wounded thing, and that's their main focus. And I do see that too, but I see it really as a master teacher and astrologer. It's one of the indicators of an astrologer too. And when I look at astrologers' charts, that's usually prominent in some way. I mean, of course,
Ooh.
Uranus is always there too, and the asteroid Urania is really strong. But I found quite a few, but Chiron is definitely one of those.
Makes me think everybody's stopping and listening and going, where's my Chiron? Am I an am I am I qualified? Does my Chiron placement disqualify me now?
Well, and it's also through astrologers, we all teach our wound, we heal our wound, so maybe that's how it, how our particular take on astrology is the healer in that regard.
Right. Because we come into it through perhaps being grounded or a crisis or some kind of, objective confirmation that we're not getting from caretakers.
Right. Well, we lived it, so now we're teaching how to heal it and not make the same mistakes, kind of.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Demetra's Asteroid Goddesses was written after Eleanor Bach published the first ephemeris on the asteroids. So she was
Right.
one of the first out of the gate to get those asteroids pinned down.
Yeah, she was a pioneer in that sense, really, truly.
I'm imagining what you're going to be doing on this deserted island with that book. Like, is it, sort of a meditation or...
Just, yeah, keeping me in touch with the, rereading and revisiting. I mean, I've read all those books so many times. It's probably, in my subconscious anyway, that I don't need them, but it's like I wouldn't want to give them up.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Imagine stepping into a room of 5,000 astrology books, turning a corner and stepping into a room of 2,000 more. The Celestial Arts Education Library is every astrologer's dream, and it can be yours. I invite you to come support CAELi before you can visit physically. Your support will mean the creation of 52 new episodes of Within Orb next year, 4 issues of the CAELi Review, our inaugural journal, and countless book talks, events, classes for our community. Visit our website, www.caeli.institute/support, to select your level of care. Please help support CAELi into the future, our future, so that we may study the future together. Thank you for listening. Please enjoy the rest of the show. You do teach, so obviously it sounds like predictive astrology might be on the list. But if you were to choose a different book for a beginner, somebody's coming to the AFA library like, Dave, just turn me on to a book. Like, I'm really getting into astrology. What would you put in their hands?
I would put either Sakoian and Acker's, astrology book, the beginner one that has interpretations in it of everything. I think that's a really good gateway book also to get you kind of hooked in it. I think their descriptions are so right on that people go, oh, they can't deny it. It's like one of those.
Yeah.
And of course, I love for transits. I would say Robert Hand's book was definitely the Bible for me. And most of us in that age group that grew up with that. I definitely would keep that one too for reference, and I've referred that to so many people over the years.
Francis Sakoian and
Acker, I can't remember the other person's name.
They haven't come up on the show very often, but I see their tiny pamphlets. They've got a pamphlet for every planet and some aspects, like the inconjunct one.
So what we did was we combined those pamphlets into a book. And we made a new book on their transits called Transiting Planets. It's Sakoian and Acker, and it's a red book, and AFA published it. It's really, really good. We edited it and made the language a little bit more apropos and not so biased or, as it used to be back in the day, sexist. So it's a really good book too for transits.
I had no idea that was combining those pamphlets together, because I've seen them so many times, kind of disparate.
Yeah, we took a lot of those there were so many pamphlets back in the day, like Helen Adams Garrett had a whole slew of them. They're small books, and we made them into bigger books.
Okay, so when you say we, what is this? Is this
AFA?
Okay, so you're one of the wizards behind the curtain at the AFA publishing experience.
Yes.
Amazing!
Yeah.
Okay, everybody stop what you're doing and go check out Dave, because this is so cool that you've actually created a lot of the books that are here at CAELi.
Yes, and I'm on nowadays, since the president, I have to prove every book before it's printed.
That's
So I
amazing.
get to read them before they come in fresh, from an author, a suggested author, and approve whether it goes or stays or. And then I also go back and go through old books to see if we should reprint them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, if you need help with that, let me know because I would love to help.
many that are fascinating too. I I can't wait till you do come and visit sometime because I
Yeah.
think you'd love to go with me
Yeah.
and you'd be in heaven, I think.
I think it's a heaven. Exactly. It is a heaven. So I just looked it up. It's Francis Sakoian and Louis Acker. So you see those things. I mean, you could literally fill a hot tub full of those pamphlets and go swimming. And the Helen Garrett pamphlets you're talking about, I love the quality of paper on those because it's like she went to Laser Quick and just photocopied a bunch of stuff in the 90s and got it stapled, which is like the ultimate zine culture,
And then just printed her own and then brought them to a lecture. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I got to see her in real life. She was at a lecture here in Scottsdale, actually, years ago.
What was she like?
Really? I mean, I didn't know what to expect. Very humble, very just nuts and bolts, very basic, and very simple. I mean, she's just like, well, it's right there. There was like 90 people that came to her lecture. I mean, those days things were unheard of. That's a lot of people for
Oh, yeah.
Scottsdale area to have, because we usually average like 20 to 30, people
Yeah.
for things like that.
So do you think that number of people came because she was doing this self-publishing and proliferating her words so much?
I think so. And plus, she was a legend in her time,
Okay.
and, sometimes when people get older, we know that they're not going to be around long. So we all want to see them.
Yeah, there's that.
There's that too. Like the rock stars, I keep going to these old bands before they can't anymore. So.
Right? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, there's so much to discover. Everybody, if you haven't heard of the AFA, please just go check it out because they are the oldest organization for astrologers in the country. And Dave, thank you so much for holding the line as president over there and keeping the publishing culture alive. I'm so grateful for all the things you do that maybe no one even knows you're doing them. But
Well, I was going to say, anybody interested in writing, please write. Send us books. We would like to publish. We are always publishing. We're looking for new authors. We're looking for new subjects or even old subjects redone. So
you might find me in your mailbox. Okay, so where can people find you?
they can find me at theastrologystore.com. That's my personal website because I do own a store called the Astrology Store in Glendale, which is separate from AFA. AFA is the publishing company and where I do the president work, and I own the store and daily come to the Astrology Store. So, and in the summer, I am going to be teaching a 10-week course on forensic astrology, which is going to be really exciting because I really do work on cases. I work on usually one case a month at least, sometimes two or three. Usually it's finding missing people. I belong to a group of psychics and astrologers that help find missing people. And so it's called Find Me. And we only take cases where the police are involved and where they are willing to take our information. If they're not willing to take our information, I'm not wasting my time.
Right.
It just goes in the trash and then we're just doing something for nothing. So, and we don't charge. So there's that. So it's all volunteer stuff. So I do, and I've had really good success in finding people. And with me, I have a combination of different techniques I use. I mean, I use astrology, I use tarot, I use psychic work, sometimes medium stuff if they want to talk to me or want to be found. And I've literally had that happen. One guy, I was doing the case and I was meditating and doing the chart, and I had his time of birth and everything. And he came in the living room as I was meditating and said, it's my fault. I wasn't murdered. I drowned. I was drunk.
Oh, no.
Had him in the lake that I said he would. And they actually put that on TV with my name. Like, here's where Dave said he was. So
amazing. So you're teaching a class on how other people can learn how to do this.
Yeah, on how to do different techniques with the forensic, whether it's pinpointing suspects or eliminating them, telling who did it, and or finding people how to help use the horary techniques that I use, or objects too, right? Sometimes it's cats and dogs that I look for. Usually it's humans. And also how to tell if they're, like, the first thing I have to do when I get a case is determine if they're alive or dead, which is the icky part. And you always want them to be alive, but they're looking for a live person is very different from looking for a dead person. Live people move, dead people don't usually.
Well, that sounds like a super fascinating course. I'm actually really tempted to take it. So
we might even be doing cases that where you need to get the answers for. Like I might take a case that's fresh that I'm working on and do that too. I usually like to take a lot of the old cases that I've already either solved or we know the answer to so that you can see how it worked or if you're right.
Right.
But also it's good to know if you ever work with the police, you probably won't ever get an answer or directly from them. It's like pulling teeth and they don't owe you anything. So, and they don't think you count really. So it's kind of like not very ego gratifying, but it's just you want to know if you're right or wrong. And sometimes, and we ask for the coordinates from the police, like where the exact coordinates were, because I turn in exact coordinates where I think they are and see how far we're off or close to.
Wow. Well, I'm so excited you're teaching that. That is one of the most unique things I've ever heard in the world of astrology. And also thank you for doing that service for the community.
Yeah, it's fun. It's not always fun, but
yeah. Understandable. Cool. All right, Dave. Well, thank you for being here. And links to everything that we've been talking about is in the show notes. And yeah, keep up the great work.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Within Orb. To learn more about the Celestial Arts Education Library, or to become a member, visit our website at CAELi.institute. That's www.caeli.institute. If you enjoyed this episode, please help spread the word. Follow or subscribe to Within Orb in your podcatcher of choice, rate it 5 stars, or write us a happy review. This helps others find the show. We also want to give a big thanks to the indie band The E-Block for contributing their song Wake Up for our intro and outro music. You can find them at their website, eblockband.com. This is Jenn Zahrt, signing off for now. See you next time.